So for the past few months, I've been spending my spare time looking through different websites for cases to review. Then one day when looking at cases for less than £50, I found this one, the Deepcool CC560. This case seems to tick nearly all the boxes at this price point. It includes 4 fans, has tempered glass, it's from a reputable brand, and it's a nice design aesthetic throughout. Usually when I'm finding cases to review, I'm looking for absolute gems. I want to know why it's so popular, or the opposite. I want to find a case that people aren't really talking about to see if they should be. And the Deepcool CC560 is one of those that we should talk about, but unfortunately not for the right reasons. But let's take a closer look at the CC560. As usual, pricing varies quite a bit, but the best price I've seen is £49 for the black version, which is the one I have here. You can pay £10 more for an ARGB version as well. I'll be honest, I assumed this was actually an RGB version when I saw the fans, but nope, they are just a single colour, and a turquoise colour at that too, hence the sort of aesthetic I've gone for here. The CC560 is also available in white for £43, which is odd as white cases usually cost more. From what I can tell, there's no white version with ARGB fans, which would have been a really nice looking option around the £50 mark. I've always felt that the £50 price point is around the minimum I'd want to pay for a PC case, as this is where you can get some nice to haves like tempered glass, mesh panels, and a handful of fans included. Whereas spending a bit more than £50 can push you closer to really well built cases like the N60 H5 Flaw or Corsair's 4000D, though they only have 2 fans each and are closer to the £80 mark. So with this being the first Deepcool case I've reviewed, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but my first impressions didn't start off very well. After unboxing the case and removing the package, I went to unscrew the tempered glass panel, only for one of the thumb screws to just pull straight out. It appears the thread for the standoff has completely stripped, so it will no longer stay in the case. Not really a huge issue, as you could always just return it immediately and get a refund or replacement, but I decided to persist as I thought I could just fix it later. And it turns out I did. I just had to remove the standoff from the top right corner, which was the faulty one, unscrew that, put it at the bottom right corner, put the standoff from the bottom right to the top right, and then it just worked. Everything just screws in nice and easily, no issues. It's like it was never even a problem now. Deepcool has a lot of cases, varying in price between £50 to £99, each with a strange and different approach to the front panel mesh. And I feel they've been getting it wrong for a while now. Deepcool announced the CC560 in April 2022, which means Deepcool took 15 months to announce their next case, the CH560. And it appears they finally worked it out with the new CH560, offering a much finer mesh and large 140mm fans up front too. Though for £90 with that little LCD display, that looks like a bit of a bargain at first glance, and a case we might have to check out in the future. Unfortunately, the CC560 might not be the greatest bargain that it initially looked to be. So now that I've piqued your interest, if you are interested in bargains, then if you could just go ahead and subscribe, that would be great. There's more videos like this coming in the future. So let's get into the nitty gritty and start this review off by taking a look around the outside of the case. And I guess we have to talk about that front panel first. It's completely plastic, which is fine at this price, but the ventilation this thing allows through is just dire. The large black plastic strip through the middle kills most of the airflow those 3 fans can intake. With this front panel being made of plastic, that likely means if they had opted for more holes and more ventilation, it would have become very flimsy and weak. There are other options on the market that have integrated a proper mesh front panel close to this price point, so it's a bit disappointing that Deepcool hasn't managed to find a way. I feel like if you opt for this case and upgrade the fans, even with mid-range hardware like I use in my test bench, there's a significant decrease in temperature when you just remove that front panel, something that better fans can't easily fix without adding a lot more noise. Also, the dust filters are an absolute nightmare to remove. So much so, I'm pretty sure if you did remove them, you probably couldn't replace them. Front I/O on this CC560 is adequate and exactly what you'd expect for this sort of price. A single USB 3 Type A port and another USB 2.0 Type A port. Deepcool does make this fairly obvious, with one of the ports being a nice turquoise color and the other one just being plain black. We also get a combined microphone and audio jack, as well as some rather squishy power and reset buttons. They're fine, but they do make you feel like your old PC from 2009 though. Next to the I/O we have the magnetic dust filter. Unfortunately, when mounting a radiator at the top, it doesn't quite sit flat, and you can clearly see the bulges from the radiator screws, something that you don't tend to see on more premium cases from NZXT or Corsair. Underneath that dust filter, there are some very large square cutouts in the steel to allow the air to flow through, which is in line with the same pattern we see on the front and the rear of the case. That square ventilation design that we see on the rear fan placement and expansion slots has me rather pleased by how clean this all looks, and I just wish that the front panel could have matched the rest of the design a little bit better. A steel front panel with that same pattern and no giant strip taking up 60% of the intake would have made this chassis much easier to recommend. Taking a look around the rest of the case, we do have a dust filter for the power supply, which is a pain to remove and even more of a pain to reinstate. The tempered glass is held in with 4 thumb screws on one side, which I'm never a fan of, as screws at the rear of the case are much cleaner and easier to work with in my opinion. The side panel that covers your cables is held in place with 2 thumb screws, but neither of them are captive, so make sure you're ready to catch them when you unscrew it. Otherwise you just know it's going to roll away behind your desk. As we remove the side panels and take a look at the inside of the CC560, there's not a lot to see, as you'd expect with a case at this price point. The shroud covering the power supply also has no ventilation or the ability to mount extra fans on top of it, though the cutouts for the cables are reasonably sized and gave me no issues. Now we are inside, we can obviously get a closer look at the 4 120mm DC LED fans that we have in the case. Again, if you want ARGB, you'll want to spend an extra £10 or so. The fans aren't offensive, they're very quiet at idle, but don't sound fantastic at their maximum RPM. Also, don't be deceived, they're actually more of a turquoise colour in person, and not just a very cool white like they kind of look like in the picture. One thing I'll also note is they're also pretty difficult to see through that front panel, as they don't get very bright and offer much of a glow. Unfortunately, my most frustrating part is the sticker placement though. I assume this will vary from case to case, but just look at that wobble on the rear 120mm fan. The expansion slots on the rear of the case are unfortunately all single-use ones, and there's no spares included in the accessories bag, which is really disappointing. Inside the accessories bag there are some standoffs for you to install, though that is only if you plan on using a standard ATX motherboard. At the top of the motherboard there are some cutouts for you to poke cables through, and trying to poke the 8-pin CPU cable through the hole was just so unnecessarily painful. When you're looking at budget cases though, you're always going to be making compromises, one way or another. So let's quickly talk about compatibility and what you can expect to cram inside the Deepcool CC560. At the rear of the case, the largest fan or radiator you can install is 120mm. Up top, you can fit 2 120 or 2 140mm fans, but only a 240mm radiator. Then up front, you can fit up to a 360mm radiator with 3 fans, or 2 140mm fans on a 280mm radiator. Maximum GPU length is 370mm without a front-mounted radiator installed, and you can fit CPU tower coolers up to 163mm in height, and also PSUs up to 170mm in length as well. So if you wanted to, you could fit a lot of hardware in this case. It just won't be fairly practical or straightforward, and you will likely hit some bumps along the road. Let's take a look around the back of the motherboard and have a look at what sort of cable management you can expect in a £50 mid-tower case. Well, not much. You won't find any Velcro straps or cable channels or covers, you'll get the basics. There's plenty of tie down points for cable ties, the included fans just daisy chained together, so there's no integrated hub, and the front I/O is pretty minimal, so there's not many existing cables to get in your way. If you want, you can mount 2 2.5-inch SSD to the left of the main cable run, or you can make use of the removable hard drive cage in the basement below and mount 2 3.5-inch or even more 2.5-inch drives down there too. Like I said, the cage is removable, so if you're not going to use that space and want more room for stuffing cables or cable extensions, then you can just remove the screws at the bottom of the case. It does look like there was potentially somewhere to mount SSDs below the cutout for the motherboard, but maybe that's only available on a different SKU, and Deepcool have just reused an existing frame for the CC560. As far as cable management goes, I've not done an incredible job, but I like to make some effort to make sure the side panel actually closes properly. And to my surprise, it did. It slid back on really easily, no trapped cables, and I can't have too many complaints at this price point. It's honestly not much different than the Corsair 3000D has to offer, and that's double the price. So I guess it's time to talk about the thermals, and unfortunately for the Deepcool CC560, this is where it all falls apart. In the default state, with every single fan going 100%, the CPU hit 81.8 degrees and the GPU hit 67.7 degrees. These are honestly pretty poor results. When removing that top dust filter, it usually makes a small difference, but this time it made a big difference, dropping our CPU temps by 3 degrees on the CPU and 1.9 degrees on the GPU. That's a crazy improvement, all from just removing a dust filter. But if you go one step further and take off that front panel, you can drop temperatures once again, bringing the CPU temperature to bang on 75 degrees. A drop of 6.8 degrees compared to default. The GPU is also much happier with the front panel removed, dropping from 65.8 degrees to 61.8 degrees, a drop of 4 degrees, all because we removed the front panel, which is completely restricting those front fans. Obviously, more expensive fans would make a big difference here to combat that front panel, but then you're increasing your costs dramatically, and you might as well just look at some better options all around. I'll give you some quick noise tests with the system in its default configuration, so you can make up your own mind as to how it sounds. So I guess it's conclusion time. what do I think of the CC560? Do I recommend it? Well, if you take minor individual defects out of the equation, like the broken screw and the wonky fan sticker, I think this CC560 is already really a tough sell. I think it looks pretty good. It looks clean and minimal, not too gamery, and especially with the regular LED fans opposed to the ARGB ones, that is. Building inside the case is fairly straightforward. You're given everything you need to get a good budget system up and running. The only issues will arise if you look at dropping in hotter running hardware, radiators, or larger GPUs. In the default state, compared to having no front panel and top dust filter, you see a drop of about 6 degrees to both CPU and GPU, with all fans running at 100% in both tests, that is. Obviously, if you opt for a quieter fan profile, those temperatures could be much higher. I know I'm probably being a bit harsh on a £50 case here, but the MSI MAG Forge M100R I built a PC in a few weeks ago is the same price, but it included ARGB fans and a fully proper mesh front panel, albeit it was micro ATX, so it is obviously a little bit smaller, so make of that what you will. But fundamentally, I'm here to give you advice and make you aware of a product's flaws before you purchase it and end up frustrated. If you plan on using high-end components or even older hot running components, you might see warmer temperatures than you're comfortable with. As a result, you might find yourself removing that front panel during longer gaming sessions, or if you've got a video rendering and it's taxing your whole system. So, do I recommend the CC560? Yes and no. I guess yes if you're using low power hardware with no plans of upgrading to hotter components, and you get it closer to that £40 mark, like with the white model I mentioned earlier. But it's a definite no if you have some mid to higher end hardware that benefits from running cooler, let alone running quieter. Anyway guys, that brings us to the end of the video. What do you guys think? Have you had much experience with Deepcool's other cases? If so, which ones? Please let me know down in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, and if my face hasn't offended you, don't forget to get subscribed as well. I have enabled channel membership, so if you want to help out the channel and get a little badge next to your name, and also allow me the ability to purchase more products for testing in the future, then I'll greatly appreciate any support you can offer. But if you're interested in checking out the Deepcool CC560 or any extras I may have mentioned, make sure you check the description down below for my Amazon affiliate links, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.